degrees from the University of the Philippines, Mindanao, and the University of Melbourne. She is pursuing a PhD on cultural centers in the BIMP-EAGA region and founded the Mindanao Architecture Advocacy Network and designed educational toys like Balay Balay architecture puzzles. Let's take a look at our next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Gloryrose Metilla B.
Are you all awake? Just that time. Okay. Before I start, I'd like to introduce myself. Where's this mic? Okay, wait. I am architect Gloryrose D. Metilla. I'm a founder of this boutique firm. I'm not a prominent architect, as I said. This boutique firm called Street Architecture Designs. You can learn about us through this talk and also by following our socials shown in front. And you can connect with me through LinkedIn. I would like to express my gratitude to the National Convention organizers, especially Architect Chloe Kwong, for inviting me to this plenary. It is such an honor to be standing here representing the southern portions of the Philippines. Hi, how are you? The Sub-Saharan region. I'm just kidding. And of course, I'd like to acknowledge my UAP chapter, UAP North Davao. Where are you? Did you bring a banner for me? Just kidding. Also, I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues, both past and present, the Dato, the Bae, the cultural communities who have shaped my presentation and my life. Thank you, and this presentation is for you. I'd like to start by telling you a story. When I was in my earlier days of the career, I hit a crossroads, as anyone would. I didn't want to do architecture anymore. We were doing this NCCA event, doing a replica of the Mindanao traditional houses, and I was not enjoying myself. No? I said, to hell with architecture. And then something happened. The earth beneath me started to tremble. Not violently, of course, but in a rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing from the ground. The air vibrated with energy, and it happened. People began to move. Their bodies swayed, feet stomped in unison, arms rose like leaves in the wind. I joined in, and I was swept in the currents of movement, not as an observer, but as a participant. I had unknowingly stepped into something sacred, the Globe, the Savannah people's ancient Thanksgiving. We danced upon bamboo floors with undulated beneath our feet, rising and falling like waves. The dance was a turning point. I then was again interested in architecture, but not the architecture of the movable, but the intangible cultural heritage, together with the immovable cultural heritage that is linked to this architecture of the cultural communities. I realized that these houses that we were doing was not mainstream in studies, not even in the curriculum, and were not promoted. So I applied for the NCCA grant and immersed myself in the study of the traditional architecture close to home, Mindanao. This tapestry of architectural styles, together with intangible cultural heritage, is so vast. In Davao alone, we have the Ata, Bagobo Tagabawa, Bagobo Klata, Ogo Manovo, and Amatik Salon, which was actually presented this morning, each with their architectural vocabulary. We documented the houses, every detail from the facade to the connections, from the roof to its details, to the material and its intangible cultural heritage connected to it. A special thanks to my colleague who drew these drawings, architect Taylor Calibre. Then, we decided to connect it to the young, starting with making toy puzzles. No? The first one was a Tarogan puzzle. We did exhibits around different malls in Davao and other parts of the Philippines, in Marawi State University, in the Aga Museum, and then we also conducted competitions as to who will do the fastest of this toy. You see this? And then we made other toys with the Department of Trade and Industry for the Lusaka and the Babawon and Pangwangan cultural communities. With the NCCA partnership again, we were able to conduct tours around the Philippine schools to showcase the toys, and with the A-Asia Foundation, we were able to give some of these Tarogan toys to the internally displaced brothers and sisters during the Marawi siege. The toy even had its artista moments, being in the background of Boy Abunda's talk show. Handa na ba kayo? And then we published a book, Balay Kulayan, a 70-page interactive book showcasing the dwellings of different Mindanao ethno-linguistic groups, and we launched this in 2023. Now, gaining insights from all the data that we have already done, we tried to analyze these houses and what design principles and philosophies we can gain from them. Because in every researcher, you could say, data without analysis is a missed opportunity. So we had to analyze them by the simple comparing and contrasting of these buildings. We realized that despite their difference, these traditional homes share principles that we can learn from. Let's talk about one example, the Ata Kakibata's house, or the Binanima. Their steep roof slopes enable the stack effect. Hot air rises and escapes from the gable vents, keeping interiors cool. This also enables the building to shed rainwater more efficiently. Another thing is that the structures are elevated to coast to prevent flooding and promote ventilation and maintaining a livable environment. This first analysis tells me that traditional houses are breathing. They have the principle of breathing architecture. They are designed not just for airflow, but for life flow. And so we tried to get that principle to design one of our first ever houses that we built for a simple family dwelling, the Balay Maya house. Now this house is made of hybrid bamboo, cement with sampagita glass, and it had gable vents and as well as wraparound vents to create a livable environment. Gaining experiences from these first builds, we decided to take the principle even further to try to innovate to design a medium-rise house called the Amihan Homes. It's not starting. Okay, so the Amihan House is the design that mimics the Binanwa in form and philosophy. It is wrapped around 14 steel perforated bristlets that blocks feet from coming in and allows breeze to free flowing. The developer wanted a net zero off-grid style of housing, and that is why the principles of design try to marry the essence of breathing architecture. Because of these experiences, from the builds and also further analysis of the vast data that we had, there was another analysis of the principles that came, the principle of symbolism. The buildings are very much a symbol than they are buildings. They carry the ancestral memory of the place. And this is the same across Asia Pacific. You'd see houses echoing the symbolic architecture. In East Asia, we have the crown ridge caps, and indigenous Australia would have ceremonial structures that have the same. Going back to our example, the Binanwa, the Ata culture has this manok as a roof crown that speaks volumes of their identity. It speaks the prestige each of the dato and the household. Another structure that does the same is, of course, the Torogan, which is a symbol of status reserved for the datos in royal families in the Maranao culture. Gaining from this analysis, we translated it into practice, and so when we were tasked to design several government structures, we put this in mind. One of the designs that we had to do was the barn barangay halls. We took inspiration from the Torogan, recognizing that the barangay halls now serves as the smallest unit of government, which is in parallel to what the Torogan used to be as the smallest unit of government during the time. We infused the architecture with columns and clear patterns as expressions of shared identity and cultural pride and leadership. Interestingly, it has given several jobs back to the artisans as they were now making so many panolong styles as we were doing 70 plus barangay halls across barn. We were faced with so many panolong styles, it was amazing to see different art interpretations from the ground. This philosophy now guided us deeply to one of the most meaningful projects that we have ever done. It was done in a town called Butig. Butig was once a stronghold of the ISIS mounted forces. The town had reached a low point in 2016 because a flag of the ISIS was raised there and claimed the town. A lot of residents migrated to the nearby cities because of this. After the signing of the VOL in 2019, the community stood in the cusp of renewal. We were tasked to design a new municipal hall for Butig that would not only function as a government building but stands as a powerful symbol for moral recovery and peace. Of course, I was hesitant because I had heard about Butig, but I felt it was a challenge, so we proceeded. The ministry told us that we would want to show cultural identity back to Butig, so we're thinking about symbolisms again. The construction team from the ministry talked to the artisans and the makers, and they had bring back the panels once again to the seat of government building. Just as 6 years after its darkest moment, Butig is now thriving. In November 2023, they have inaugurated the municipal hall and they were all smiles. A lot of residents who migrated went back to Butig and they were happy with the developments that starts to happen. And in the same year, the town was awarded Most Improved Government Unit at the Philippines Creative Cities and Municipalities Competitive Congress. Imagine that. So inspired by the projects that we made, we used the same philosophy of symbolism to another government project, which is the Barn Public Markets. Since it was a community space, we made sure that the strong sense of collective identity was embedded in the spaces. And so the phenomenons were back again, because this is where it is, and showcase the symbol. This time, we also tried to embed the breathing principle together with the symbolism principle. And so we introduced the lattice works and metal works to this facade. It was actually very difficult because there was no CNC cutter in the areas. This was like in Mindanao, so we had to talk to CNC cutters from Pampanga, and eventually we found one, and it made the project even faster. So you'd see all the lattice works around this barn public markets, and this one Asia award which was evidence that cultural design can be recognized globally pala. So it was telling us something. Yeah? And so we were again very inspired by so we made the next project and we thought about why don't we contemporize the idea of the principles of symbolism? And we were tasked to do the government capital building of Maguindanao del Norte. And this is still the seat of the office of the leader. So we're trying to think of symbols of heritage. And we were researching what the leaders of the community were wearing, And you see that the headcloth was prominent. Even across Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, and Lanao, And even in the Higaunan communities, the Bilaan and people, they were wearing a headcloth. But what was the headcloth that was worn only in Maguindanao is the tubao. So the tubao had to be that symbol. We designed it together with the ministry, inspired by the tubao because this has a specific kind of weave only found in Sultan Kudarat, according to our researchers from the Forum as well, and the weavers were also there when they came. It was a symbol of prominence and leader. We also incorporated the Lanastics works, which was also a breathing architecture, through the crease flowing across the building. Interestingly, this project won World Architecture Festival winner Power Justice, and we were shortlisted in the civic category. Although we didn't get the grand award, I tried to immerse myself in the festival and saw that the completed buildings was also culturally designed, based with the original people of Sydney. So it was telling me that I was sort of doing something right? And so now we have two principles, breathing and the symbolism principle. And let me get to the third and final one, I promise you, final one. I would like to coin this as the spaces that holds us together. Our traditional homes are porous. They are interconnected and communal. Homes like the Bajau village are connected by walkways that invite interaction and care for each other. If you go to a small village, they would give you food from all over the houses. There was no mine, yours, which is ours. And this architecture mirrored their generosity. So this principle of traditional houses also embrace community architecture. And let me share a video about the Aka community, their example of the house. And so we collaborated with the NGO called iEmergence, focused on the Aka Pakabato community, which was NPA, a lot of NPA during the time. There was no development that could push through there. And you had to ride a skylab, which is a motorcycle that could carry about 10 people going into the area. And you had to carry the skylab to the river, because when the river is too high, you have to carry the skylab instead of the skylab carrying you. Okay? So there was 10 years of community organizing and preparation from the NGO before we were even able to start the participatory process. And the leaders wanted Paniluanan, a place of learning. We wanted to intentionally pass the culture practice from their young to their young. So we tried to help them using the participatory design approach. And this is trying to regain their morale as a community and the first peoples of Davao. When the participatory design process ended, the elders were able to create a cultural design that is akin to their identity. This is a stop-motion animation of what they did. And so they were able to create a design of the buildings with 5 types of buildings. And this was also an eye-opener for me because I didn't know that the cultural communities have 5 types of building. We're always taught that we have the Bahay Kubo or the domestic architecture. And they have religious buildings, justice buildings, livelihood buildings pala, not just one typology. So this was paradigm shift for me, even if it was a very humble project. And so, gaining from the small participatory process, I learned that it could be used in a wider scope. And so the idea of the community principle also came to mind when we were tasked by the National Commission for Culture and Arts and DOT Region 11 to design the Culture Hub of Davao. This is in partnership with the community organizers and culture heritage professionals such as Nestor Herfilia, and it was a very use research-based participatory design. A lot of SGDs happened with different arts and cultural organizations from all over the region of Davao. The research output of that very tedious, it was a year of tedious researching, was that the heritage that was most important in Davao region was the natural and intangible heritage. And we tried to think about breathing and symbolisms and community and what has all of these. It's the intangible heritage. And what is the intangible heritage? that holds us together, holds a space together. And I will give you a clue. It's the event that happens after this. It's the partying and the dancing, right? So we're thinking about the dances and performances, but once again, of the cultural communities. And that was what makes spaces hold together. So we designed the cultural hub to have a silhouette of these subtle indigenous performances, which symbolizes the intangible heritage of Region 11, Mindanao, and the Bay. Now I can see you because it was so shiny earlier. The volume of the building represents the mountains and cultural heritage, was also part of the research. And also the roof extended to the canopy with jade vines that was endemic only to Mount Apple, which we tried to create a relationship with the building and the site and nature. It was also designed in such a way that the building forms the mountain just almost touching the ground with steel, but not quite, as the concept of the floating mountain silhouettes. So, yeah, I just want to turn that around so that you can see the last part. Okay, this is a picture project. I'm like in a marathon, right? Talking. So this is a future project, and we would like to make more buildings that have meaning, principles of breathing, symbolism, and community. I'd like to close this image of video horizon, a breathtaking sight that graces every corner of our archipelago. It's truly remarkable that in the Philippines we are divided by seas, and yet it is these very seas that binds us. They carry our stories, our songs, our shared heritage from shore to shore. Because of them, our culture flows fluid, resilient across generations. Through these projects that I have shared with you, I've had the privilege of standing at the far edges of the country, in the Velcro areas, in the backdoor of Tawi-Tawi, to the heartlands of Luzon. And in each of these places, no matter how distant or different, I look up to see the same sun setting, soft, golden, and whole. It reminds me that despite the waters between us, we are connected with something deeper. A shared sky, shared soul, a shared story waiting to be told. And so, for my last slide, let's connect. Share ideas, similarities, and maybe have a healthy discourse. So please feel free to reach me, connect with me on our LinkedIn and pages. I believe that the genuine conversations, through listening, exchanging, and understanding each other, we begin to build bridges, and maybe in doing so, we can slowly shape a world that is more compassionate, more inclusive, and more whole. Thank you, and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gloryrose D. Metilla. Again, put your hands together, please, for our